morning. It's just hit 11 o'clock. You know what that means? It's Sunday Blether time on the Bhoycie Bus. I'm your host, David Logue, and as always, I am joined by, well, Phil, we call you Mr. Friday Night, right? But I've been thinking I want to give you a new nickname, and I don't know why we haven't given you this nickname yet already, but I'm going to start calling you the Riddler, Mr. Phil the Riddler McGinley, because you just tie us up in knots with all your wee riddles and quizzes every week, mate. So there's your new name, Phil
The Riddler.
the Riddler McGinley. How you doing, man? You doing alright?
Not bad at all, mate. There was no Friday night show, obviously. You know, they missed a Friday night morning because there was no game to preview. That's the whole point of the Friday feeling. So it was like, well, it's one of those drab international breaks, and yeah, there's actually nothing to play for Scotland. They've qualified, so it really is a drab one. And yeah, well, here we are though, because you know, even though there was no Friday feeling, we're here for the Sunday Blether anyway. Because turns out there is quite a bit of news and rumours to talk about. So
Yes,
looking
mate.
forward to getting into it, mate.
Yes, mate, and as always, we'll be joined by Regan. He is on the way. He jumped in backstage to let us know he was on the way. Just had to do a couple of things, and he'll jump on. So looking forward to getting Regan on as well. But yes, Phil, you have mentioned it. This is the Sunday Blether. This is the show where we go through all the news, the gossip, the hearsay that surrounds Celtic Football Club. Where we scour online to see what all the gossip columns are discussing and the news articles, and we dissect them, and we find out if there's anything really worth chewing on. But we're gonna do that anyway. And just before we do, we'll introduce the main man, the real face that runs the place, Regan Stevenson. How are you doing?
How you doing, mate? You doing good?
I'm not bad, Dave. It's good to be on. No Celtic this week, but I'm going to the big match tonight. If Scotland by 2 goals, we're going to be in pot 2 for the first time ever. So no, looking forward to the match tonight.
Excellent, mate. I just noticed we did do a test before you came on, and we didn't get any echo, but we got a wee bit of echo there. So I've just muted you just now for a second, just while I do the all the good stuff. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe, slag my facial hair, slag Bhoycie's hair, slag everybody's hair. Fuck it, just slag your mom's hair while you're at it. Why not? And while you're doing that, make sure you become a Bhoycie Bus member for a small cost of $1.99. All our content is free. This just if you want to support the bus. This just helps keep the wheels on the road, pay subscription fees, all that kind of stuff to keep us on your PC, phone, tablet, whatever you want to watch us on, you will find us there. And of course, piesports.com. Jump over there, get your cart filled with all their tasty pasty treats, and you can get yourself a little wee tasty discount with putting Bus 1888 into your discount code, and you get 12.5% off your order. Okay, Regan.
Nope,
Has went away again.
He's went away, mate. He's had enough already, mate.
He's had enough. What he heard was, he's like, shit, I forgot to get my pies in the oven, so he's ready to do that. I think I just reminded him.
A macaroni pie.
Yes. Well, Phil, like you mentioned, it is international duty just now, and with that, we have 14 players that are on international duty this week. So there is lots and lots of discussion points. We're going to go through all of them today. We're going to look at some of the transfer gossip that always seems to come up around this time as we're getting closer to that January transfer window.
Yes,
some names reoccurring into the shop window, names that they want to throw at me that I just struggle to pronounce all the time. But let's talk about some of our players on international duty just now, Phil. Let's start with a positive. It was making the rounds last night. Another wonderful assist by the man that can seem to do no wrong just now in Lewis Palma. Did you see the clip of the that nice wee chipped ball that he assisted for Honduras that beat Mexico the other night? 15th in the world apparently at the minute, Mexico, but they got their totties handed to them with the help of Lewis Palma and co.
Yeah, he was doing the rounds on Twitter last night, so I happened to see it as I was scrolling through. But yeah, as you say, the boys going from strength to strength. You can't do no wrong. As I've been quite a advocate for him for the last few weeks, talking about him. I can see, what he's turning into. I think the more game time he gets, the better he's getting. Obviously, I know Mark's pointed out about the whole Abada being injured. This is the reason that he's got a chance. But I think he was always going to get a chance anyway. Even if Abada was still fit, I think there may have been a rotation going on there. And I think, but the fact that he's got a clean run at it, with Abada being injured, is obviously going to help that he's going to play every week. And I think he's getting better all the time. He's becoming a goal threat for us. See his assists, fantastic, great one for Honduras. And yeah, you're right to point out about the team they beat, Mexico. Honduras, I know they've been at a couple of World Cups in my lifetime, but they're not exactly a powerhouse in that region of the world. Mexico are a consistent, World Cup qualifying team. They're always there and about it. So that's a hell of a result for Honduras. And yeah, it's going to do him all the good. Comes back to us, obviously, at the end of the break and heading into this really busy winter period because, the fixtures will be coming thick and fast through the tail end of November and all the way through December because, it's like midweek games galore as well. So, yeah, we're going to need every player fighting fit, on the best form they can be. And it's only a good thing for us that he's turning it on for Honduras as well. And, well, mate, continue, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, it's only going to help with the confidence boost, playing as well as he did on international duty for Honduras. I don't think he got a man of the match performance, but he did rack up some pretty excellent stats. I'm not going to bore you guys with all of them today because there was quite a lot. But he put it this way: he had a very good game, and he caught the eye, obviously, of his peers and his and obviously fans in his homeland. The player, funnily enough, Bill, and he's been mentioned in the chat already by Celtic Glasgow champions, our new head scout of the Bhoycie Bus.
He's done some serious work, by the way.
Serious scouting work for us today, so we appreciate that. Some of the players have got mentioned on today's show already. Some of them I did not, so that's I do appreciate the help. A little side note while we're saying that, you all know now that pretty much the concept of the show is we look at the news, the gossip, the hearsay. If you see anything that you go, that would be great for Sunday Blether, just in case I've maybe missed it, feel free to tag me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, or even the Bhoycie Bus, and let me know, and I'll get the link, and we can, and I'll let credit you guys for finding the articles as well, if you's wanting to do that. But Regan, you there, mate? Let's see, can you hear me? Regan.
I think I'm sounding very robotic, but can you hear me?
Yeah, mate.
I'm not sounding robotic now.
No, but it's fine, mate. It's fine. So what I was saying, Regan, I'll come to you. So the player that actually scored the goal for Honduras that Luis Palma assisted to was a player that was mentioned to us back in March. We were told by a certain Emilio Azaguirre about this player that we should be looking to sign him on a free transfer. What we decided not to was Anthony Choco Lozano. That's Choco seems to be his nickname. So when we were in the hunt for a striker in the summer that we chose not to go for, Emilio Azaguirre actually came forward with a player in his homeland that is Lozano, who, like I said, he scored the goal on the weekend there against Mexico. He's a 30-year-old striker. He signed for Getafe for free in the summer there, and he's now scored 3 out of his last 4 international fixtures, and he was also assisted. He was also, like I said, he was assisted by Palma. However, he's not yet scored for Getafe. Now, I know obviously La Liga is a very difficult league to perform in, especially maybe at a lower level club like Getafe. However, he seems to be on hot form just now for international, for country rather than club. I mean, I don't really know much about him other than what I've been reading this morning. I don't even, to be honest, remember the link, if there was even much. But a 30-year-old striker, he doesn't fit the mould that we were discussing what our club choose not to go for. But should he have been somebody that we should have been looking at? Anthony Choco Lozano, he sounds like a mafia hitman, Pato says. Well, if a mafia hitman might be what we're after. Who knows, Regan? What's your thoughts on him? Did you see his goal on the weekend?
No, I didn't see his goal. It would have been a busy weekend, but no, I mean, in terms of him, I think it's what Brendan Rodgers said last week. He's sick of project players, and so am I, David. I think the way that the club's been run has been brilliant, but I think there is a point where we need to sit back and say to ourselves, right, well, we obviously need to pre-negotiate actually how many project players we have, because we can't have every position in the squad be a project player. We need to have some experienced players, and he would definitely be in that category of experienced players. I think that's something that we're actually missing. I think Brendan actually said that in the July time. He always said we're missing the blend, the blend between youth and experience. I think he'd be someone that I would look at.
Yeah, I would agree that we do lack experience, and I don't see personally, Phil, the issue in looking at strikers that are maybe at their, I don't want to say the end of their career, because 30's, nowadays 30 is not quite the end of a player's career, but just somebody that's maybe been about, not necessarily Lozano. I'm looking at his stats here, and
Yeah.
they're not, but he's not a prolific striker. It's not really what I think what we're after. Even 40 caps, he's only scored 9 goals for his country. Like I said, he hasn't scored yet for Getafe that he signed in the summer. I'm sure if he had signed for us and had yet to score, we'd already be questioning that as a signing. However, maybe somebody of that ilk is what is needed, Phil, to just fine tune and maybe just finish off what we are needing to just wrap up this league this year, and of course find that all elusive victory in the Champions League.
Aye, that's the real conundrum for us. Yeah, because I do think, safe to say, the Champions League campaign is DOA. It's done. I can't see the miracle happening that needs. But if it's a case that we can get at least that monkey off the back of winning a home game, because it's tragic to think of how good we were at home many years ago, and now we can't even win at home. We're bad enough away, but now our home games are terrible. But we need to get this, again, a confidence thing. We need to just get it done so that, because the longer it goes, the more it's going to get brought up every season we're in it. So we need to obviously turn that around, and then it's going to be baby steps in Europe. So obviously, if a new striker is going to arrive, they're going to miss that anyway, because we'll be out of Europe by then, I reckon. So unless some mad miracle happens, but we definitely need another striker of some kind. And yeah, I'm all for looking at a more experienced head. If it's somebody who's coming in who's quite happy to be a second, third choice, because again, it's that thing about if Kyogo does get injured and O takes over as the main striker for X amount of time, I know O's starting to show a bit of promise and come onto a game. But then what happens if O's having a bad game and Brendan looks to the bench and it's like, what have I got here? Mikey Johnston's there, James Forrest, all the things that people are pointing out this half of the season. It's like we're going to need another striker option there, because it seems like, much like Ange Postecoglou was, the B team players aren't going to get much opportunity. We've talked enough times about the issues with the B team and how they seem stifled in their development. So it doesn't look like there's anything sitting there. And I know Brendan did say in a press conference a couple of weeks ago about, we might look to the B team, that they might look to it, but he won't. I think he was just saying that just to sort of toe the party line, essentially, but I don't think we will. So he needs to he definitely needs to be looking at bringing in another striker without a shadow of a doubt. Because again, from a fan point of view, I look back at, again, I always try and relate back to things that I've seen happen before, and I know the football's much better compared to what we saw back then. Back, I remember Stratton's final season at the halfway stage. We beat Rangers at Ibrox. We were 7 points clear. I think somewhere about February, we got to 7 points clear again after they pinned us back. But we ran out of goals that season. That was the reason why we lost the league. And what did we do in that January window? We bought Willow Flood. That was all we bought. We were strongly linked with Stephen Fletcher, but we didn't push the boat out for him when we needed a striker that can score at this level, because I think Scott McDonald picked up an injury at the tail end of that season, and between Vennegoor Hesselink and Samaras together, there just wasn't many goals. And it's like, well, if Kyogo gets injured in a similar vein, as O got it in to lead the line, and what if O's having a stinker? You're going to need another option there. So if it's a guy that's 30-something, as long as he comes in and does a job, and even if it is a loan at the end of the season, whatever, then I'm all for it, because winning the title right now is the most important thing in Celtic's agenda. And now David's muted himself.
been that busy trying to keep Regan for
Aye.
can I muted myself. Sorry. Anyway, like I was saying before, to nobody, Regan, Celtic star. Oh, Phil has just mentioned there. He's been chatting away to the papers in his homeland ahead of their showdown with China. And he was obviously asked what his aspirations for the remainder of the season was, and of course he is hoping to be ready to be called upon and be more of a competition for our main man Kyogo. He says he's in good shape now after his injury. He's just recovered from a shoulder injury. And he goes, I'm ready for anything. I'm confident in both substitute and starter roles. Of course, O's mainly been deployed off the bench for Celtic this season, with Kyogo the preferred option to lead the line. Rodgers already admitting that he will be looking to add more firepower in January. So of course, O will have to make sure that between now and him going off to the Asian Cup, if he is called upon, which I imagine he will be, he really needs to start showing more of what he's been showing in the last couple of games. You know, it's been good so far, albeit the game was, we were home and dry by the time he scored the 2 goals. But however, I think we can all agree that he doesn't lack desire to show what he can do. So the more he does that, obviously, hopefully the more it'll come off for him. So Regan, like, does O now stand in a chance of being that starter competition with Kyogo, or is it still going to be a case of, look, Kyogo's, doesn't matter what you do just now, Kyogo will always be the main man. You will probably be second choice, but can you stay second choice, or will you drop down to third?
I think in terms of, I mean, I said if he was going, he's pretty raw, but I tell you something, David, I've been impressed by him. I said that to you 2 weeks ago. He scored that important goal against Sunderland at home on a Wednesday night to win us the game. He scored 2 against Aberdeen. Okay, we were 4-0 up at the time. He scored the last 2 to make it 6, which made everybody in the Sky Studio not very happy. But I mean, I think in terms of I think he's a decent player. I don't think he's up to Celtic quality. But I would like to still see him. Every time I see him, I just think I think he's got something, David. But I don't know if he can be, like you said, if Kyogo picks up an injury, he can be thrust into the starting spot, because I just don't think he's got that reliability. But something I did like last Sunday, David, was seeing Owen Kyogo. No, not last Sunday, the game against St Mirren, those 2 played up front, and I did like it. You know, that's where where the goal came from. It was Kyogo passed to Owen, and then a pass to Thiago Home, and then Thiago Home plays the ball through to O again. And I think 2 up front is something that we should try again. But in terms of I don't know if he's still do his long-term future, but I would still like to see that position be strengthened in January.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, there has been discussion around another striker. He was part of the rumour mill in the summer transfer window. And that, of course, is Bologna striker Sydney. I remember I said Cindy last time. Sydney van Hooijdonk he's left the door open for a January exit. Now, whether that means Celtic are really interested in him or not is yet to be seen. However, according to some reports, Celtic are showing a little bit of interest and are considering reviving the interest that was mentioned in the summer. Of course, the son of former Hoops hero Pierre, he was touted with a move to the Scottish champions last summer, having impressed during a loan spell at Heerenveen.
Yep.
That's where we got Samaras from, is that right?
Samaras played for them before
He played
for
for
Man
them and then
City.
we
Yeah.
got City, yeah.
Yep.
Which saw him net 16 goals in 32 games. Not a bad return at all for the Eredivisie. Before, of course, he returned to the Serie A side. He's yet to really show that kind of quality again. Boss Thiago Motta pretty much closed the door on him exiting in the summer, and he did offer him a second chance at the Italian side, but he has failed to make the breakthrough this term. He's only made 5 league appearances off the bench, combining a total of 41 minutes of action from the bench. I'll just repeat that, from the bench.
Yeah.
He's only had 1 start, and that was in the Coppa Italia victory over Verona, which saw him actually net. He did get a goal. However, that's pretty much all he has contributed to their season thus far. Of course, that doesn't make him a dud. It doesn't make him a bad player. It just means that right now there are maybe better players ahead of him. Just kind of like maybe what O's finding himself just now. He might not necessarily be a bad player. And of course, we could look at Giakoumakis. Certainly wasn't a bad player. Just wasn't afforded the chance to start. Phil, if I'm being honest, I would be quite excited if we did show an interest in a player that managed to score 16 goals in 32 games last season in the Eredivisie.
Yeah.
Let's forget about the name for a second.
Yep.
You know, let's forget about the name, okay? It's a fucking nightmare to say. I'm not saying it again.
Yep.
Forget about the name. You see 16 goals from a striker in 32 league games in an Eredivisie side. Does that interest you? I would like to think it would.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, again, Giakoumakis syndrome. What happened a few years ago, getting him. He was playing for a team that got relegated. He was a top goal scorer, and so it's a decent level. Going to get a decent player there. So yeah, I would like. That's the type of things I want to see us linked with. You know, he's playing in a decent league in Europe, and he's got a half decent goal record to his name. I know he said forget about the name, but obviously that is something that we can't ignore. So just quickly on that, I hope he's got the ability of his dad, not the attitude of his dad, because there's a lot of interesting revisionisms going on by a lot of Celtic fans over the years regarding Van Hooijdonk, Cadet and Di Canio, where undoubtedly 3 fantastic players for us. The way they all left the club, a wee bit more... Don't know if they should be celebrated as much as they are, but they were no doubt great players. So when it comes to Van Hooijdonk, I say if this was an option on the table, and if it was something we can get, I say I hope he's got the ability of his dad, because his dad was my first Celtic hero. Definitely when I began watching the team back in the mid-90s, he scored the win on the '95 Cup final. So he's obviously got that to him. So I would like to think that if we do bring him in, if he was an option, then we'd be getting a half decent player there. His record definitely suggests it.
Yeah, absolutely. What he said, he was actually speaking to the Italian journalist of Corriere dello Sport. I'm not even going to attempt the accent. I think you need the accent when you say Italian stuff. He says, "I'm fine. I'm at a good team and I like it a lot here, but I have to do what's best for my growth, for my career, and I also have to play. In football, things can change quickly. There are 2 months until January, and who knows what will happen." He's obviously hoping that he will get the opportunity to show that he is more than capable of continuing to be in the squad. However, he seems to be well aware that he may need to go somewhere again on loan to find that form. He obviously says, like I mentioned, he is aware that right now there is maybe better players, or certainly players on better form than him just now, that's keeping him out the squad. He says now there is Jota, who is playing a great season. Do the rumours about my possible transfer bother me? It's normal when you don't play. In the last year and a half, I've played a lot and I also scored a lot. In my opinion, Bologna isn't the same as when I came here 2 years ago. Everything has improved, the level, everything. We'll see what happens. I think he's obviously very level-headed. He's patient. He obviously wants to make. He obviously feels that he is more than capable of being in this team. He just needs to be offered the opportunity. But of course, when players are in front of you are playing well, it's going to be difficult to drop them. Yes, Patrick McLaughlin. That's who.
Sydney Van Hooijdonk.
Yeah. Is he 23 or something? I don't think he's.
I will quickly find out for you. Well, you can test Regan again and see if he's.
Yes, let's see. What I want to get, because obviously his audio's.
Yes, 23.
Great. 23. Regan, you had a question on Sydney. What is your question, mate?
And my question was, David, Are we just signing these guys because of their name in the back of their shirt? I mean, we spoke about Henrik Larsson's son. It'd been a good signing for us, and we spoke about Sidney van Hooijdonk. We've spoken about all the players that used to play. You know what I mean? I even heard somebody talk about before we tried to acquire our last two managers. Folk were talking about Henrik Larsson being manager. I think sometimes we just need to calm down a bit and just, if these guys are good enough, but then I would take them. But if they're not good enough, and I mean it, like if I remember folk were saying about Henrik Larsson being manager and all that. If these guys are not good enough, don't bring them in. We expect high standards, so why should we lower our standards just to go? Because I think the other thing is that even though I say Neil Lennon's a bad manager, right? Like you can go like from my generation. Like I'm 25 years of age, right? So from my generation, Neil Lennon did really well, slightly as a player, and then as a manager as well, right? But the thing that he did was he he slightly ruined his reputation a little bit, and I don't think sometimes these managers or players like Henrik Larsson want to come in as manager. I don't think he would ever want to do that because then he would let's see we lost 3-0 at Celtic Park against Aberdeen and then 1-0 to Hearts the following week. The facts be shouting for his head. His reputation then gets ruined a little bit, and he's a god at Celtic Park. You know what I mean? These are things that surely play into their minds.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm just. Are you questioning whether we should? Are you saying we shouldn't be looking at Sidney Van Hooijdonk? Is that what you're saying? We shouldn't be looking at him.
I'm saying that it would be great in a magical wonderland where when you're looking back at fairy tales and you say, oh, we had Van Hooijdonk's son playing for us, and obviously he played for us. But I mean, I was glad that you read the stats out because I'm actually more interested now that you read the stats out. But I was just saying it's typical mentality of sentiment, like Mikey Johnson and James Forrest. But we just got these players just to for the in my opinion, it's because of we need the Scottish Scottish blood for the Champions League because I don't see any other reason why James Forrest and Mikey Johnson are still there. Sentiment and for the UEFA list, you know.
And I know what you're saying. I don't. That's why I was trying to say like let's not focus on his surname because that can then twist a narrative here that instantly you've gone to the mindset of we're looking back at players of old and the sentimental value. Whereas that's why I said let's not focus on. I know it's hard not to, but when I'm bringing up when a player gets scouted to you that listen this guy's plays in Serie A, he's just not getting game time now because there just happens to be better players ahead of him just now. But we put him out on loan to the Eredivisie, a pretty reasonably decent club in that league, and banged in 16 goals in 32 games. He's available to you, whether it's loan or to transfer. Like I find that hard to ignore. Like 23 years old, does he fall into that category of what's the word? Prospect player and all that. Like I don't know. It's a difficult one. What you're saying though, Regan, when we jump over to another player that's getting linked, maybe it's to do more with fan linking than maybe than real linking going on. But of course, you're mentioning Scottish coefficients, and we've got to tick those boxes. Having Scotland players, of course, Lawrence Shankland's name can't be ignored. Phil, Lawrence Shankland, he has been mentioned a lot in the chat already this morning before we've even got really got going. Scores on international duty, a late call up to Scotland, gets off the bench, manages to seal as a draw. He bangs in the goals at every level he's played at, whether it's been in the Scottish top flight or in the lower divisions. He's now doing it for Hearts consistently. Great penalty taker.
Yes, yeah, I could definitely do with that.
Shankland, apparently, I was reading a wee article before I came on there saying that, he's available to us at 3 million. Don't know about that, but I don't know. Yeah, but yes, Monty Shankland, for fuck's sake. Absolutely. But that's the name that's been mentioned in the chat. It's the name that's been mentioned a lot lately in terms of finding a striker to bolster our ranks. Shankland for you, Phil? Is of any interest to you as a player?
As it interests me, yeah. I mean, he's obviously got a goal record that shows he can do it at this level. Again, when you look, it goes back to that thing again. If you look to the bench, what have you got there available? So I think he would be a good squad player for us. I think if he was at Celtic again, you'd take that mentality. And I heard Tony Haggerty talking about this, and it was a great point where it's like, he's playing for a team right now, scoring a decent amount of goals for a team outside of the Glasgow Big Two. He then goes to Celtic, who get a lot of the ball, make a lot of chances. Naturally, he's going to then score a lot of goals, you would think. Do I think he would be a Celtic player, though? No, I don't. One, I don't think Hearts would make it easy for us to deal with him. And two, and people have obviously alluded to that, I think he obviously would favour playing for the other side in Glasgow. I think that's been I think there was a few subtle hints were dropped when he scored the goal at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago, and there was absolutely a lack of celebration. Very similar to one that David Goodwillie did years ago when he scored the winner for Dundee United at Ibrox and then looked absolutely furious to have scored the winner. So, I think the clues are there. Sometimes, though, when you do approach teams, let's say if Hearts did make it difficult, if Celtic did go in for him, sometimes the player will then push a move, essentially. I don't think Shankland would push a move to us. I don't. I think he's destined to be with Rangers as it is. I think he will end up there if he's going to move anywhere. But on the case of if it happened and he did it upside, do I think he would do a job for us? I think he would. I think he would score plenty of goals for us because we make lots of chances. We need a guy. How many times do you see it? And this goes back to even when Andrew's in charge. How many times we zip a ball across the box and nobody gets on the end of it? You need a penalty box striker, and I think he would do that. At Hearts, he won't get as many chances as he would with us, but as I say, the basis of it is, do I think we would get him though? No, I don't think Hearts would want 3 million. I think if that mob came knocking, they would they'd push for a move for a bit cheaper, I guess, if they've got the money. But I think Hearts would probably be like, if Celtic come in, oh no, 3 million, no, 5 million for you guys. I think they would make it really difficult for us, and I don't see the player pushing through. Majowski gets mentioned again as well. I do think Majowski's a decent shout as well, but how much would Aberdeen want for him? Would he push through a move? Would he go on strike at Aberdeen and push for a move for us? That's the thing. So at the moment, if I had to pick out of the two, though, Majowski would be the one I would lean towards. I think he's more viable for us. But in terms of Shankland, though, if it was to happen, I do think he would do all right for us. I think he would score goals, but I just don't see it happening just because it's him and it's Hearts.
I'm laughing at some of the comments and the balls to the walls. This one cracked me up there. Regan, a lot of the guys in the chat are mentioning, and obviously Phil alluded to it. There's a good chance he may support the other side of the city. Does that come into Celtic's thoughts when approaching a player, the team that he supports? Should it bother us as fans that if we know that he could get us, let's say, 20 goals a season playing for Celtic, should that be a concern for us, or should it just, the only concern should be that he'll be a professional and he'll put the ball in the back of the net? And another question I want to add to that is, an FS made a point of that it's a short-term option and there's no sell-on. Should the sell-on value really matter if you're signing a 28-year-old player that's banging in the goals in Scotland already?
David, I could say something else that would set the chat on fire, but I'm not going to do that right now. But
Oh my God.
Say that again, Phil.
I said, oh, why not?
No, I'm just going to say that a certain few Celtic Academy prospects are brought up in Rangers families, and they've done pretty well. Players that are playing right now, and Callum McGregor and James Forrest.
Callum McGregor, yep.
Yeah, I mean, Callum McGregor's dad, a Rangers supporter. I imagine Callum McGregor's a Rangers supporter. He's now the Celtic captain. Barry Robson, who played for Celtic scored against Rangers supporter, and you've got loads of them. I mean, I don't see the big deal. I mean, I've seen. I mean, I think it was a different podcast, but they also said Kenny Dalglish, Davy Provan. There's loads of them.
The list
But-
goes on, mate. The list goes on.
I think the big thing for Shankland is he's got a proven record of a bang average Hearts team, and he scored. Like, I think last season he scored something like 21 goals in a bang average Hearts team that were lucky to finish fourth. You know, that's a guy that scores you goals. You know, and like I think now he could probably be the number one Scotland striker, because to be honest, as much as I like Dykes, Dykes is more of a throw the ball in the box and see what comes in. Shankland's more of a penalty box striker where you can go, like, if he gets one chance in this game, would he be able to score? And you'd say yes. And for instance, I think Shankland's up there with kind of League of Griffiths mould, where he's really good in Scotland. I think that's something. I think when Brendan Rodgers came in, he said, "I want to bring in players from Scotland again." I'm sure he did say that, Phil, in his press conference before, where he said that I do want to get people that know what it's about to play for Celtic. I don't see a problem with Shankland coming to Celtic, to be honest, because at the end of the day, he'll score his goals, and at the end of the day, he want to come and win trophies. I mean, people were moaning with Greg Taylor side. I'm sure Greg Taylor's a Rangers supporter, but Greg Taylor's done very well.
No, absolutely. Just going to meet you again, Negan. Sorry. So before we move on, I just want to refer back to some of Celtic Glasgow champions. A commenter in the chat. We're always talking about Celtic Glasgow.
What scouting work done there?
What scouting work done. So here's just some
Aye.
names he's chucked in. He's done some homework for us, which again, thank you very much, Celtic Glasgow champions. He's mentioned, of course, we'll bring up this one here. So of course, Boy at Granada, Lozano that we've already mentioned, Pavlidis plays for AZ. I think he's
Pavlidis, Greek striker, yes.
Yep, Chaplin at Ipswich, who are on fire right now.
They're doing very well, yeah.
They're doing very well. I think they'll be up next year. Vardy of Leicester, Salali at Freiburg.
Yep.
You know, any of these ones would improve his big style. AZ striker would be his first choice, though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Greek striker from the Dutch league hasn't didn't go. You know, went all right last time, Phil.
All right, yeah.
But Banza, he plays for Braga. Plenty of names he's chucking at us this morning. Again, the only one I've kind of heard of, apart from obviously Vardy, would be the Greek lad at
Pavlidis.
AZ.
Yep.
And of course, we've seen them already. I don't know if he was playing for them at the time when we played them. Another name.
He certainly played against Dundee United last season, when they trounced them in the qualifiers. They got to the semi-finals of the Conference League. AZ Alkmaar lost to West Ham, who went on to win it. So they did all right in the Conference League.
Now another name Edward Moore brought up there, which you've starred as well there, Phil, is would you take Patson Daka from Leicester? Well, I'll let you into a little secret, lads. So
secret.
He signed from a Wolfsburg side.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
Doesn't he get my starting lineup like Phil? But when Patson Daka came to Leicester, I think he came with a bit of pedigree, didn't he, Phil? Because was he not tearing up the was it the French league they got him from?
He was playing in France for, was it France? I feel like he was, but yeah, he was. Had a decent record going there, and yeah, just again with Leicester getting relegated, he's just part of that. But he just kind of fell by the wayside there. But again, I think we mentioned him last week when we were talking about the Jamie Vardy thing, and then there's Daka and Iheanacho. But again, would Brendan be going back to Leicester to try and bring anybody in? I think he would have made a move in the summer for anyone if there was.
He signed him, didn't he? He signed him, and he's very tall. He's very quick.
Yeah,
he's very much the mould of a striker that Rodgers likes. I wouldn't be against it. I think, I mean, he's obviously he didn't set the heather alight at Leicester. Of course, he had the likes of Jamie Vardy, any actual ahead of him. I don't even know if he played him as a striker, Phil. I didn't watch a lot of Leicester's games, if I'm honest, but from what I gathered, he wasn't the main man. We'll put it that way. That doesn't necessarily mean that Rodgers didn't see him. Could have been the main man, and just things didn't happen to work out that way at Leicester. But you might still think there's a job to be done.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe,
looking at
maybe
his, I've just looked at his goal record there on Wikipedia. Before he joined Leicester, he was at Salzburg in Austria, and he had 82 games and 54 goals. It's a hell of a record, to be fair. That's a really good record. So, yeah, he's definitely got something about him.
There's Michael Garrity confirming that as well. He's signed from RB Salzburg.
Salzburg, yeah.
I would listen. I remember. Did he not play in? Did he not play in the Euros
No, he won't play in the Euros. He's Zambian.
Is he? Oh,
no, he plays for one of the African nations. Yep. He might have played in Belgium or
maybe
at some point.
Maybe. Well, either way, he's a name that interests me, if I'm being honest. Whether it comes down to the whole, he's played in the Premier League, so he must be good. Well, maybe, but like I said, like you've just mentioned 50 odd goals and 80 appearances in the Austrian league. So I mean that's not to be sniffed.
Salzburg, a team we've never beat as well. Every time we play them in Europe, they usually do us. So yeah, not a bad standard there that he was playing for and scoring. So again, he's a guy that would interest me. It's just again whether Brendan Rodgers is going to go back to the old contacts. Who knows? Because again, I'd try to second guess this board and the scouting. I just don't know what direction they're going to go in next. It's so hard to guess right now.
No, I know. Regan, well, speaking of scouting, that's a lot of interesting report that came up, Regan, that I thought was quite interesting. Now, there's a lot of talk that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to be buying Manchester United. And there's a former Celtic transfer chief is apparently wanted by Manchester United if Sir Jim Ratcliffe happens to push through the deal. Now, according to the Telegraph, Sir Alex Ferguson's influence is likely to be good news for former Scotland international Dougie Freedman, who has won plaudits for his job at Crystal Palace in the same role. However, Radcliffe has drawn up a short list of other candidates, and the same report is saying that ex-Celtic recruitment chief Lee Congerton is among the candidates. Now, Congerton worked with Brendan Rodgers at Chelsea, and he was initially a youth coach under Jose Mourinho, but he was made head scout when Frank Arnson took over as sporting director. Now, Congerton helped facilitate the deals of the likes of Scott Sinclair, Moussa Dembele and Odsonne Edouard whilst working for Celtic. And then he moved with Rodgers to Leicester, where he oversaw the transfers of Yuri Tielemans and Wesley Fofana. They worked out well for Leicester. I'm now posing the question as to why, if he's only on a short list, he's not been offered any job at Manchester United, but if he's drawing up that kind of interest again, why aren't we looking at? Why is Rodgers not saying, listen, this guy's worked out for me and you in the past. He worked out well for me at Leicester. Why are we not trying to get this guy back? Because I think it's now starting to show that maybe Lowell Jr. and his little list of Man City projects isn't necessarily working. Now, Monty's saying that he couldn't... I'll just bring it up. You can read it yourself, right?
Yeah, this is the dignified Blether, remember.
That maybe we shouldn't be trying to get him back. Not saying that we are trying to get him back. I'm just wondering, why aren't we trying to maybe get someone like that back to help with this scouting system? Because I think the last couple of windows have suggested that maybe this isn't quite working, and Rodgers should maybe look to somebody that he trusts. And I will unmute you, Regan. Apologies. There you go. It's not, seems to be unmuting, because you need to unmute yourself there, mate. There you go.
I don't, David, as much as I like you, mate, I don't think Lee Congerton is the answer. I mean, you forgot to mention you signed Kwasi Abui, Jack Henry, Charlie Masonda, who else will help me here?
Was he there when Bayo and Shved all signed? Was he there for that?
Marin Compu as well, don't forget Big Lavin.
Oh Oh God.
It's got the chat. It's got the conversation started. Come on.
David's through there.
Shot the grenade in and watch Regan fucking explode,
know,
man. He's...
No, but I don't think he's the answer. But I do understand what you mean. I think
Yeah.
Lawwell's well has tried a little bit. I mean, like, as much as, do you know what really interests me though, right? Now, see Girona that are top of the La Liga, they are owned by the City Group as well as.
Yeah.
So that just shows you that the City Group obviously does work because Girona are now ahead of Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Real Madrid in the top of the Spanish league.
Mhm.
So that I mean, the City Group obviously is good, and obviously I don't know if you guys are watching it, but Jeremy Frimpong is tearing it up in Germany. I'm loving watching Bayer Leverkusen at the moment. So obviously there is still some things there, but yeah, I do agree with you. I think we do need a more a better director of football than Lowell and his son to oversee the operations. And I think that's something that Brendan did when he first popped into Celtic when he first got the job in 2016. He insisted to Celtic that he needed a recruitment person. And remember the whole thing when Eddie Howe was going to become the manager. He insisted that he brought his own recruitment guy. Remember that was the whole.
Can't forget, mate.
I'm trying to remember that guy's name. Remember it was like, is this guy going to come?
I know who you mean.
It was somebody
Phil?
Hughes, wasn't it? He was like a former
Oh.
Portsmouth player or something like that, if I remember right. Yeah.
Martin Weir suggested we should ask Paul Lambert. By the way, that's not a bad shout. I remember rightly, did he not? He told Neil Lennon that he should be signing Fraser Foster.
He
Yep.
did, yeah.
And I tell you why Paul Lambert would be good as well, because Paul Lambert he watches the German league, he watches the Dutch league, so he'll know as well who to go for. You know, because as much as we don't want to go back to former players, but sometimes it is a good to go back on a consultancy basis to go look what players across Europe can you recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Because there must be players that we're missing out on. I mean, we know that Ange Postecoglou did sign Rio Hatai because he mentioned it in one of his recent press conferences. And these are the kind of players we need to go back to, because I said it to you guys last week. See, since we signed Rio Hatai, since we signed Maeda, we signed Kyogo, the transfer windows have been awful. They've been awful.
Mm-hmm. And the player, and let's be honest now, the three players you've mentioned there, they were definitely identified by Ange. Maeda played for Ange before. Kyogo, he knew from obviously playing against him, and he was obviously very well liked in Japan. And remember, he now that he moved to Spurs, I'm sure you'll have seen the presser. He discussed how he identified Matoma and Hitati when they both played against him and just completely destroyed his side, and he wanted to try and sign both of them, and he brought them to Celtic. So I think we can credit Ange for those three hits. And then obviously we've tried to go back to that well a few times, and it's just not quite worked out. Now, Rogers was discussing, guys, how his coaches have and how they work with the players now, and this is what he had to say. So Brendan Rodgers lifted the lid on his Celtic coaching staff. The coaches have a specific number of players that they work with on different elements of their game. An incredible amount of work goes on here from all the coaches to help the players develop. He says that we identify the areas that they need to be better in. So Harry will sit with the forward players. John Kennedy with the defenders. We've got our defensive coach roll back for Big John.
Oh, it's that again, right? Okay.
And Gavin with the midfielders. Gavin his laptop with the midfielders.
Okay.
So of course we saw Louis Palma. He celebrated his goal by running up against Ross County and running up to Harry Kewell on the bench, gave him a wee hug.
Yeah.
And he goes, he was probably referencing some pointers that Harry gave him, which is great. So Louis Palma has already credited Kewell with raising his game of course, he's scored 5 goals and he's and got 5 assists in 12 appearances, and he's putting a lot of that down to the work that Harry Kewell has done. So it's quite interesting, guys, that this is kind of the roles that Rodgers has given them. I think quite differently to what Ange's setup was.
Yeah.
Harry, obviously, there was a lot of talk that he might leave and go to Tottenham with Ange, but obviously after discussion that he had before Rodgers took the job again, they had a private conversation at Rodgers' home. They had a beautiful meal and they talked lots and lots about the beautiful people at Celtic, and was managed to convince that he was the man that he wanted to have in his coaching staff. And right now it seems to be coming up trumps, and I think it's interesting that we've got these guys have all been assigned certain positions again and focus on. Do you think this is working so far? I mean, it's hard to argue so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Palma scored that goal up at Ross County, it did feel like a Harry Kewell type. I've seen Kewell score many goals like that in his playing career, so it was interesting. He did run over. But I do remember there was a story as well about when he came in last season. One of the guys he was working with very closely was Daisen Maeda. There was talk there. So yeah, I do remember all those stories as well. And I know that our resident judge on here likes to go to and fro with you, David, about how good Maeda is. I do think he has improved. I do think he is a valuable player of the team. Yeah, I do agree with some of the points Mark makes about there are moments where you do wonder, is he even a footballer? There are some crazy moments, but I do think he has improved. And yeah, he has been working alongside Harry Kewell since he came in. So yeah, you could see it rubbing off then on the forwards and the wingers. And say Palma, going over and acknowledging him with that goal. So yeah, it's clearly working. It's an interesting one, Gavin Strachan as well, working with the midfielders. I know there's a lot of analytics to be found, and the midfield area is probably one of the places where those are most relevant because it is the engine room of the team. Yeah, it's funny that you bring up as well the John Kennedy thing. People for years kept saying that. Every time we go through a spell where we kept losing goals, it would always be John Kennedy's fault. Everyone's like, oh, but he's not the defensive coach. But then you've just said that there. So now that's just throwing the cat amongst the pigeons, mate. He is a defensive coach, but it seems to be going okay so far, except for in Europe, obviously. But that's another story. But domestically, obviously, it's going okay. But yeah, it's good to see that they're very involved and whatnot, and they've all got specific roles. That's always good, encouraging, man.
I just like to think that, when you've got Harry Kewell showing him all the tricks and all the things that he was able to do back in the day, and the unbelievable goals, and this is what you needed to do that, and then you've got John Kennedy doing all the defensive work, and then you've got Gavin Strachan showing the midfielders how to work Microsoft Excel and on his laptop, Windows Media Player, all this kind of stuff. But another player, Regan, that made an appearance, an international appearance, believe it or not, was Marco Tilio. He got a 10-minute appearance against who was it? They played Saudi Arabia, and they managed to get the win out there. Of course, whether that spells any chances for him at Celtic at the moment, I'm not too sure. Of course, Rodgers has made mention that, of course, it's maybe been a bit more difficult for Tilio to develop to the style of play over here in Scotland, a bit more physical than maybe that he's used to. We signed this boy for 3 million. I didn't realise it was as much as that. 3 million for this lad, yet to still make an appearance. Of course, we know injuries have been a part of the problem, but he is now clearly fit, getting called up for Australia and making appearances. So, Regan, I think I asked you this last week, but are we getting any closer to seeing Marco Tilio, or is it just going to be another player that's just who was that again? Why did we buy that guy?
I'm going to call it the ghost of Marco Tilio. If we actually see the guy by the end of the season, I don't know what I'll do, David, but I'm really surprised that we've still yet to see him. But it seems to me like it's a kind of Marvin Comper situation where Brendan's not really had a say, where he's like, oh, I'm not really interested in that guy. Because for me, the guy did well in Australia, and then remember on Celtic Twitter, June, July time, folk are saying, "Oh, this is the Jota replacement." If that's your Jota replacement, then my God, the guy can't even get a game. And the big thing for me and David, I'm not meaning to rub salt into the guy's wound, right? But if Mikey Johnson and James Forrest are getting a game over this guy, God me.
Well, Rogers is staying patient with the player. He says the intensity of the game is totally different to what he's used to, so it's been a challenge for him in training. You can read into that what you want. It's interesting that you mentioned our Jota replacement, Regan, because there is a potential Jota replacement, and his name is Jota. The reports are suggesting that he is being allowed to look to go out on loan in January, after he has also mentioned that he regrets his £25 million move to Saudi. I'm sure you can cry in your Porsche, Jota, over
Yeah.
that
He
decision.
looks at his bank account and he doesn't regret it. I'm going to take a
wipe
guess.
those tears away with all the cash. You'll be all right, son. But of course, there is a chance that maybe Celtic could possibly get him back on loan now. We're talking about a £200 million fucking whatever he is, 200 grand a week player. Like, a lot of teams are going to struggle to pay his wages on loan. There's going to have to be some sort of compromise here, surely, with the Saudi clubs, that they're going to maybe still pay his wages. Is there any possibility? Is there any possibility that we would get him back, even on a short-term loan?
I don't
Would
think
you want
so.
him back? Would you take
I
him
would
back?
want him back, obviously, if he's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
quality
that's a
player.
stupid question.
Yeah.
I don't know why I put
Oh,
that
yeah.
in the end.
No, you're right. You're right to bring it up. But I only see him ending up at like Tottenham with Ange Postecoglou. I think Ange will be very much all over that. You know, if you've probably spoken to him, I'm going to guess as well, because the situation of that is absolutely mad at what's happened to that boy. You know, for going over there. And then I didn't know that the Saudi League had this. First of all, they don't have a financial fair play thing, which doesn't shock me. But I'm amazed that they've got regulations on their squad where it's like you're only allowed X amount of players who are non-Saudi, basically. I didn't think they would have had that. I thought it would have been the Wild West over there. They've just been like, they could sign anybody and have a whole team of superstars. So that's where he's been, because I think the story was Al Ittihad, who he plays for, had an eye, or were confident they were going to sign Mo Salah at the tail end of that window in the summer. And the deal obviously didn't happen, but they had to then basically clear a space in the event they did get Mo Salah. And Jota was the one that fell victim to that. And all he can do now is playing cup games or playing friendlies. That's all he can do. It's an absolute shambles, because it's a wasting, 6 months of his career potentially. And I mean, for his own good, I hope he does get a move, but I don't see him coming back to us. I can't see it happening. I think he's one of these ones. He said all the nice things in his going away video, which, got many fans will absolutely loved it and got a good chuckle out of it when he said what a fucking ride it was as well. When he threw that one in there, that threw everyone off when he said that. But I don't think he'll be one of those guys. Don't think that will come back, even if the option's on the table. I think he'll end up in the Premier League with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham.
Regan, you might have some insight on that.
I think he'll end up in the Premier League. I think he'll end up at either Spurs or else Brighton, because Brighton are needing somebody on the wing.
What about Wolves, mate?
Because Wolves, how? Because of George Mendes.
Yeah. Because
George
Mendes. Is there not sort of link there?
Aye, maybe.
Just
I think the interesting thing for Jota, though, is David. I actually seen a TikTok the other day. I'm saying like Todd Canwell here, but I seen a TikTok the other day where he's scoring a goal and I think it's one of their friendly games or something, and it was a brilliant goal, but there was nobody there to see it. There was nobody there to celebrate it with him. He's just looking around, going, you know what I mean? It must be just so sad. Even you're even looking at somebody like Jack Henry, who's playing at El Ettifaq. They had 500 folk watching that game last week. I mean, Steven Gerrard must say to himself, what am I actually doing here, man? Like, it's crazy when you think about it. But I actually seen a thing the other day where they need to stay in Saudi for longer to get their full wages, something like that. So I think if Steven Gerrard signs a 3-year deal or something, they need to stay longer to get their full wage. It's because
it's an absolute shambles.
Yeah.
The entire
stay in the country.
It's a total shambles. I mean, you can understand why players went out there, but I think they're all coming to realise that it's maybe not been the yes, the financial decision, of course, it's hard to argue with. But in terms of career choice, it's probably been piss poor. I mean, at one point Jota was getting called up to the Portuguese national team to potentially get into their to be in the provisional squad for the World Cup.
World Cup,
Potentially the Euros. Now he said he can't even get any competitive games unless it's a cup game. And I believe they sacked their manager, Phil. Is Santos?
Nuno's gone.
Nuno
Espirito Santo's gone,
That's
and
all
the
to do
new
with a lot
guy,
of the
that's the new
political.
manager that's came in, has said that Jota's free to go in January on a loan deal. So notice it's only a loan deal that they're sending him out. So maybe that's part of what Regan's telling about, where he's got to be contracted to that club for a certain time to get X amount of money. But yeah, it's only a loan deal they're going to let him go on, which is a bit odd given how they've treated him. You would think that they would just be like, we'll just cut our losses here and let him go. But no, he's a victim of circumstance.
Yeah, shoot in the front, Regan. Yeah, shoot in the front.
See, the thing for me to do is, right, what happens if Jota goes to like Spurs or a Brighton, scores like 12 goals, and then he goes back to Saudi? They're going to go, shit, we've made a big mistake here. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously, like, if you go to a Spurs or a Brighton, that's a better league than Saudi. And if he goes there and he scores a few goals, they're going to want to have him back and playing games.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's quite the pickle, to say the least. Now we're coming to near the end of the show. However, there is a topic that I want to bring up that is not Celtic related. However, it is very much relevant to all clubs, including Celtic. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen this potential Wenger offside rule. So reports have suggested that IFAB are considering implementing a new Arsene Wenger-inspired offside rule, but will it make a difference? The rule change apparently has been considered by IFAB that would greatly benefit forwards, with offside only being awarded if the player's entire body is ahead of their opponent. Now, this is the image that was being shared yesterday. So, as you can see there, if the attacker's entire body is completely overtakes the last defender, it's offside. But if a small part of the attacker's body is offside, it won't be considered offside anymore. Now, obviously, VAR is a huge topic point again for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Across all of European football just now, it would appear, certainly in Scotland and England. Is this a potential way to fixing this, or is this going to just cause even more problems, Phil? I mean, I can see why they want to potentially go down this route to try and help with the whole, but I mean, it completely changes what we've been brought up to learn of what is offside and what's not. This could change the whole game completely. What's your guys' thoughts in the chat? But Phil, I'm going to come to you on this. I've kind of thrown this at you here, but I'm sure you had spotted this yesterday, did you not?
Yeah, that image there is very cut and dry, but there's going to be so many grey areas where part of the body will still be there, and it's like the argument will be, well, his leg that he scored with was, onside, whatever it is, there'll be still, it won't be as cut and dry as that. That example there is fine, but not every scenario will be like that. So you're still going to get a lot of fannying about when it comes to reviewing it. You're going to be standing around waiting on the review. I'm all in favour of something that will just speed it up a wee bit, because the process is getting ridiculous how long it takes, especially when you're in the stadium and you're waiting on a decision. And the thing is, well, as far as I know, the way the VAR works is in the truck or whatever building they're in, whatever it is, they're reviewing it. They've got an actual match referee and an assistant referee, but then sometimes they'll call over the match referee in the game to come and look at an offside decision. And it's like, yeah, but he's not a linesman. He doesn't run the line. So it's like, they don't need to do that. So it's still going to be a thing that they can't just implement right away. There'll be a lot of teething problems with it. When VAR first came in, one of my biggest fears about it was thinking back to when England first got it a few years ago, and you were seeing games where guys were getting flagged offside for like their arm being offside, and it's like, but you can't score with your arm and stuff like that. So these are all things, and I know in England they've kind of got a bit better with it, but we've seen this year they seem to have regressed massively with it, with some of the stuff they're doing. I say it's one of these things that looks good on paper. That picture you've shown there, very much, yeah, that looks great. That looks like that would be brilliant if they brought it in. But you just know that, especially here in Scotland, if it's implemented, it's still going to take a lot before they get it right, and they still haven't got it right here before that's even came in. So, what chance have you got?
Yeah, no. Regan, you got any lasting thoughts on your old pal Arsene Wenger's potential offside rule?
I do think you have to give the attacker the benefit of the doubt. Like, if they're running through and it's like, well, just a millimetre off, I do think you have to give the attacker the benefit of the doubt. But I do agree with for all these situations are taking too long. I was a big advocate for VAR coming in, but it's just really starting to annoy me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's like you said, you're sitting out waiting, and you can't enjoy the goal, and there's a lot of it. I know there's a lot of issues that I don't know if we'll ever be able to solve. Like that's the fact that you could score a goal, and the first thing you go to is, well, hang on, they're gonna go and check something that happened 10 minutes ago. You know, so
See
it
that?
just takes.
I'm just going to say, David, sorry, I know my echo was coming in there, but see the Louis Palma one against Lazio? So I got that. I thought it was offside right away. So I didn't celebrate. But people with me were going nuts. And it's one of the ones where you're just like, it just kind of ruins the whole moment for you, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know you, Regan, but see on the night of the Lazio game, I thought the deflation from that goal getting disallowed was worse than them scoring a last minute winner. See, when the last minute winner went in, there was just pure apathy in the stadium. There wasn't like anger and all that. It was just kind of like, I've seen this before, but see the deflation from that offside goal getting disallowed, that was a lot worse. That just felt such a kick in the gut more than losing a last minute goal, which is just bizarre. But that's just what VAR's done. It takes away that great moment. What a bedlam in the stadium, absolute bedlam, and then that terrible.
Of course, the argument's always going to be though, Phil. It was seen as it's technically the correct decision, and that's what it's there for, and that's always going to be the argument. And it's like, well, I understand that, but it's the length of time that it takes you to get to that decision. All momentum gets killed there as well. Like, okay, we scored the goal, it gets showed offside, fair enough, but fuck me, we just put the ball in the back of the net. They're shiting themselves. They've had 10 fucking minutes to go and grab a drink and go, right, compose yourself. It's all good. It's fine. It's not, and whereas we didn't get an opportunity to go, right, let's go again. Like, put the pressure on. Completely kills everything about the game.
David, one of the things I've always said about VAR, especially up here in Scotland, one of the things that just bothers me so much is we score a goal, right? You get about a 30-40 second period where the team go off and celebrate the goal. In that time, that's when they should check it. But what happens is Celtic go away and celebrate. The players all come back to the middle of the park and they line up again for kickoff. And then the referee will go, wait a minute. Okay, we need to check this. And then you get another 2-3 minutes of like wasting it. It's like you could have checked it in the 40 or so seconds the Celtic were off celebrating that goal. But instead, it began to feel like, especially in the early part when VAR came in, they were doing it just for show, where it was just like, we've got VAR now, so we're going to make sure that we remind everybody that we've got VAR and we're going to show off that we use it all the time. It's just like you've got a great opportunity while we're celebrating the goal. And if it's wrong, then you can chop it off then. But don't make them come back, line up at the centre circle. And then it's like, okay, we need to check. And then when the goal does get allowed, you get a second celebration and it's just weird. It's just a weird feeling where they've already had the bedlam of celebrating and then they go and celebrate again. It's just like, honestly, man, again, just bizarre. They'll never get it right. They'll never.
Yeah. Here you go. Like Patrick McLaughlin, he's pretty much said exactly what I was trying to say. The VAR decisions can give the opposition a second wind, especially at the stage of the match with 7 minutes to go. Like they got let off the hook, and they got a wee break to kind of compose themselves and get going. And of course, we all know what happened at the end. If you've forgotten, you can go and check it on online, but don't just put yourself through that again. I would not want to put myself through that again. Of course, we have come to the end of our dignified Sunday Blether, guys. It's just gone 12:10. We'll call it a day there. Thank you everyone for joining us once again on another fun-filled, bug-filled glitch-filled Sunday Blether. It wouldn't be a Sunday Blether without my mic not working at the start, or Regan not getting his sorted, or well, Phil, you're always fine, mate. You're just a
Regan,
show.
you're going to the game tonight. What do you think the score will be for Scotland before we head off?
Ooh, yeah, I forgot they were playing.
How can you forget, David? How can you
Because
forget?
who cares? We're quality Senates. We're through.
Scotland 3, Norway 1.
Haaland's injured for what I hear. He got injured in a friendly against the Faroe Islands. Man City will be raging about that. A friendly against the Faroe Islands and he gets injured. Oof. Brutal.
And to bring you up to speed, guys, Scotland need to win by a 2-goal margin to be in pot 2 for the Euros and for overall be in pot 2.
Okay.
Well, there you go. So there is something riding on it then, Regan. Well, good for you for
Nice
bringing
one.
that to my attention. I'll maybe watch the game now then on that horrendous via play. That is awful. By the way, just before we go, that is awful. By the way, you're better watching it on a dodgy stream. At least you'll get 4K. Like, you can't even get you don't even get HD on that. I don't think it's bloody awful. But not that I recommend that you watch on a dodgy stream, of course.
Of course not.
Anyway, have a good weekend, guys, or a great Sunday. And we'll see you again next week.
Cheers, guys.